Okay guys, so bago tayo mag-start dun sa lesson 2 natin, so may nakalimutan akong theorem nakaraan, so discuss ko muna dito para at least tuloy-tuloy tayo. So let's have theorem 1.4. So 1.4, there is 1, 1. Let a element na real number, then a is not equal to 0, then a squared is greater than 0. So again, pag yung a element na real number tapos hindi siya equal sa 0, automatic a squared is greater than 0. Number 2, 1 is greater than 0, obvious naman yan. Then number 3, for all n element na natural number, n is greater than 0. So, ang ipoprove ko si 1, tapos si 2. Then, sa inyo na yung 3. So, ito yung ating magiging proof. So, proof ng 1.41. Okay, so, ano ba assumption? So, ang assumption, a is an element ng real number such that si a is not equal to 0. Okay, so may dalawang case na pwede mangyari pag yung a is not equal to 0. Una, a is greater than 0. Pangalawa, a is less than 0. So, dalawa yung ipuprove natin. So, for a is greater than 0, okay, so this implies that a is an element of p. So, naalala nyo naman yan. So, pag sinabi natin a is greater than 0, automatic element siya ni p. So, next is, aware kayo na yung a times a is also an element of p. Bakit sir? Kasi yung a an element of p, so yung product nung itself is element pa rin ng p. Okay? So, then, this implies that a squared is an element of p. Okay, so a times a, that is a squared. Now, since a squared is an element of p, sure ako na si a squared is greater than 0. Kasi nga, lahat ng element ng p is greater than 0. Okay, so tapos tayo sa case na yan. So, sa pangalawang case, a is less than 0. This implies that negative a is an element of p. Okay, so another that is negative a multiplied by negative a is an element of p. So, property pa rin yun ng p natin. So, therefore, that is a squared element of p. Kasi negative a times negative a is a squared. Then, lastly, that is equals a squared is greater than 0. So, in any case, this is done. So, a squared is greater than 0. Ganyan siya i-prove. So, ito yung sunod. Okay, so i-prove natin si theorem 1.4 number 2. Okay, so ang obvious ipo-prove mo yung 1 greater than 0. That is true, pero dito kailangan natin i-prove. So, we need to show that 1 is greater than 0. So, mag-i-start tayo dito. So, 1 is an element of real number. Okay, so aware ka na si 1 element ng real number. So, ano masabi mo? So, by theorem 1.4.1, ito yon. Then, si 1 squared is greater than 0. Okay? Ginamit ko na agad yung 1.4.1. So, next is, since 1 squared is greater than 0, si 1 squared is an element of p. Okay? So, since element siya ni p, this implies that 1 squared is greater than 0. Okay, kasi nga, pag 1 squared is element ng p, automatic greater than 0. Then, ano yung 1 squared? 1 squared is 1. Okay, that is 1 is greater than 0. Therefore, this is done. Okay, yan lang namin hinahabol kong theorem. So, gagamitin natin mamaya yun sa absolute value pag nagpo-prove. So, tuloy na tayo dun sa lesson natin for today. Okay guys, so ito na yung lesson natin for today. So, the absolute value. So, absolute value talaga yung topic natin, pero ihabol ko itong mga theorem from the previous topic. So, theorem 5, let a element ng real number such that 0 is less than or equal to a and less than or equal to epsilon. So, itong term, ito, symbol na to, ang basa dyan, epsilon. Okay. So, yung epsilon na yan, yun yung smallest positive real number na naiisip mo. So, magkakaiba tayo ng possible na maiisip yan. So, for every epsilon greater than 0, then a is equal to 1. So, hindi siya masyado nagbabado yung theorem na yan. Someday gagamitin ko yan. So, for the meantime, theorem muna siya dyan. Okay, then theorem number 6. let A and B element ng real number such that A, B is greater than 0, then either A, una, A is greater than 0, B is greater than 0. Tama naman. So, pag yung product ng A, B is greater than 0, it's either yung A saka B greater than 0 or positive. Letter B, it's either yung A and B are parehas negative. So, negative times negative, positive, kaya greater than 0. Naka theorem 6 yan. So, may corollary pagdating dyan. So, corollary, if A and B element ng real number such that A, B is less than 0, then, kung less than 0, so possible dito na isa sa kanila positive, isa negative. Or, yung isa negative, isa positive. Yun naman yung corollary 7. So, para lang naman siyang dinidefine lang si P. So, pag nag-multiply ka ng dalawa, so parang ito yung papunta sa zero product property. Okay, so definition, punta na tayo sa topic natin for today. So, definition, the absolute value. So, let A element ng real number, then the absolute value of A denoted by this symbol or yung yung dalawang guhit, that is absolute value of A defined by, ito yun, A if A is greater than 0. 0 if A is greater than 0, and negative A if A is less than 0. Ayan na naman yung definition, absolute value. Kunin mo yung absolute value ng number, alam mo na gagawin mo. Okay, so, hindi yan yung gusto kong i-discuss sa inyo. Gusto ko discuss sa inyo yung property o yung mga theorems under dun sa absolute value. Kasi nga, lahat naman tayo alam na natin kung ano yung definition o ano yung gagawin pag may absolute value. Okay, so let's have theorem 8. The properties of absolute value. So, let A, B, and C element ng real number. So, number 1. So, theorem 8.1. The product or the absolute of product is equal to the product of their absolute. So, absolute value ng AB is equal to absolute value of A times absolute value of B for all A and B element ng real number. So, number 2. Yung absolute value of A squared is equal to A squared for all A element ng real number. So, ang obvious naman yan in absolute value mo, A squared mo, equal pa rin yan dun. Okay, then number 3, medyo importante yan. So, if C is greater than 0, then, so again, if C is greater than 0, then, yung absolute value of A is less than or equal to C. If and only if negative C is less than or equal to A, less than or equal to C. So, ang gusto lang niya makita, pag nakita mo yung absolute value of A is less than or equal to C, ito yung pwede kong gawin. Or, pag nakita mo yung ganitong form, pwede mong gawin ganun form. Okay, so mamaya, ipapakita ko sa paano gamitin yan. So, number 4, negative absolute value of A is less than or equal to A, less than or equal to absolute value of A for all A element ng real number. So, kung gusto na mangyari ng number 4, pag yung isang, sinabi mo, let B element ng real number, pwede siya maging ganitong form. Okay, so yan lang naman yung theorem 4. So, ang ipoprove ni sir, yung 2 and 3, so mananatiling assignment or sa inyo na yung 1 and 4 so parang exercise. Okay, so prove na natin yung number 2. Okay, so ito yung proof ng 8.2. Okay, so paano ba natin gagawin yung 8.2? So, ano bang una natin gagawin? So, sabi, for all A element ng real number. So, mag-let ako. So, let A element ng real number. Okay, so mag-let ako ng A na element ng real number. So, by theorem, yung ginawa ko kanina, by theorem 1.4.1, okay, sinasabi niya, that is A squared is greater than 0. Okay, yun yung sinabi ng theorem 1.4.1. So, pag element ka ng real number, yung A squared automatic greater than 0. Okay, so next is, pag yung A squared greater than 0, that is, this implies that A squared is an element of P. Okay, so yan yung binabalik-balikan ni sir. So, another nyan is, pwede nating kunin yung absolute value nyan. So, lahat naman ng number, pwede natin i-take yung absolute value. So, ang gagawin ni sir, i-take ko yung absolute value ng A squared, which is an element of P. Okay, so wala akong ibang ginawa, in absolute value ko lang. Next, sa loob, yung A squared, pwede kong biyakin. Paano biyakin? That is A times A. So, this implies that is A multiplied by A, element pa rin ng P. Okay? Then next, sabi nung theorem 8.1, so gamitin ko lang, although hindi ko pinrove. Theorem 8.1, yung product daw, yung absolute ng product is equal to the product of their absolute. So, pwede kong paghiwalin. So, that is equal, or that is, this implies that absolute value of A multiplied by absolute value of P, which is an element of P. Okay, so absolute value of A times absolute value of A, that is only equal sa absolute value of A squared, which is an element of P. Okay, so, meaning, ano nakuha ni sir? Nakuha ni sir yung part na to. Okay, nag-start ako sa A squared, napunta ako dun. Okay, so therefore, so, absolute value squared is equal to A squared. And this is that. Okay, nakuha ko siya. Okay, next, dun tayo sa number 3 or yung theorem 8.3. So, that is 8.3. So, ano yung assumption natin? If C is greater than 0, therefore C is element of P. Ganoon dapat. Okay, so, pinaka-assumption, C is greater than 0. Okay, so alam ko ng positive yan. And ano pa yung another assumption? And absolute value of A that is less than or equal to C. Okay, then actually ito ipoprove. If and only if negative C is less than or equal to A, less than or equal to C. So, kung napansin nyo, by conditional siya. May case 1, then case 2. So, gawin ko muna yung case 1. Okay, what is case 1? Assume mo to. Assume that absolute value of A is less than C. I-show natin na si negative C is less than or equal to A, less than or equal to C. Okay, so mula dito, anong gagawin natin? So, pag dinefine natin ang absolute value, this implies that yung absolute value of A is greater than or equal to C. Ano ba yung mga possible na mangyayari dyan? Una, si A less than C. Okay, so yun yung isa. Pangalawa, or si A is greater than or equal to negative C. Again, isipin nyo lang yung nangyari dyan. Absolute value of A less than or equal to C. Unang possible na mangyari sa kanya, yung A is less than or equal to C. Okay? Pangalawa, yung A is greater than or equal sa negative C. So, parang tama naman yun. So, kung mas maliit siya kanina, so, kung pinalitan ko ng negative, kunyari minultiply ko buo by negative, lalaki to, magbabago ng inequality. Yan na naman dalawang possible cases. Ngayon, pag pinang-confine natin yung dalawang yan, so, pansinin nyo na lang. So, isulat ko sa A sa gitna. Sabi una, A is less than C. Okay? Sabi, A is less than or equal sa C. Then lastly, A is greater than or equal to C. So, that is greater than or equal sa negative C, which is itong part na to. Meaning, nakuha ko yung ating show. Ngayon, pagdating sa case 2, anong gagawin natin? I-reverse mo lang yung process sa case 1. Reverse case 1. Okay, so probably that is done. So, wala na ako ibang i-explain yan. Reverse mo yung process, ayun na yung mangyayari. Okay, so again, ang importante na yung theorem, gagamitin natin. So, pinuprove ko para maiwasan na yung proving sa mga exam. Okay, so yung 4, importante yan. Yung 3, importante din yan. So, mamaya, gagamitin natin sa pag-prove ng triangle inequality, lalo ng mga corollary. Okay? Okay guys, so let's prove na yung theorem number 9. Or by the way, explain ko muna yung theorem number 9. So, theorem number 9, ito yung triangle inequality. So, maaring familiar ka dito, maaring hindi. Pero napaka-importante na ito sa advanced calculus, sa real analysis, then sa complex. Okay, tandaan. So, let A and B, element ng real numbers. Then, the absolute value of A plus B is less than or equals absolute value of A plus absolute value of B. So, tandaan nyo yung absolute value ng sum is less than or equals sa the sum of their absolute value. Okay, so paano yan i-prove? So, ito yan. Okay, so by assumption, or sabi nga, let A and B element ng real number. Okay, let A and B element ng real number. Ngayon, punta tayo dito sa may theorem number 8. So, properties of absolute value. Nakikita nyo yung for. Sabi nung for, if for all A element ng real number, pwede kong gawin yung ganitong form. Okay, so since yung A element ng real number, so lagay ko lang, since yung A element ng real number, pwede kong gawing negative absolute value of A less than or equal sa A less than or equal sa absolute value of A. Okay, so by theorem 8.4. Okay, so again, si B element din ng real number. So pwede kong palitan yung number 4 na yan, pwede kong gawing B, so magpapalit lang. So si B element din ng real number, so that is negative absolute value B less than or equal to A less than or equal, that is B less than or equal sa absolute value of B. Okay, so yun yung mga nangyari. Ngayon, ang gagawin ko, i-add ko yung parehas na yan. Okay, so pag in-add natin, okay, that is equal sa negative absolute value of A minus absolute value of B. Okay, then that is less than or equal sa A plus B, yung sa gitna. Then that is less than or equal sa absolute value of A plus absolute value of B. Okay, again, inad ko lang yung buong inequality. Then lastly, pa-factor out ko dito yung negative. That is negative of absolute value of A plus absolute value of B. Less than or equal sa absolute value of, A plus B less than or equal sa absolute value of A plus absolute value of B. Okay, so ngayon, punta ulit tayo dito sa theorem. Ang sabi ni theorem 8.3, check nyo. Okay, ang sabi na ito, itong part na to, okay, kung meron ako nakikitang A sa gitna, tapos ang nangyari, napapalibutan ako ng negative sa positive ng same number, ano mangyayari? That is absolute value nung A less than or equal sa C. Okay, so ito yung nangyari. Meron ako nakitang A plus B sa gitna. Okay, napapalibutan ako ng same number na absolute value of A plus absolute value of B. Ayun yung nangyari. So, ano yung gagawin natin dito? So, ang gagawin natin dito, by theorem 8.3, ano mangyari? Kunin ko lang yung absolute value ng A plus B. Okay? That is less than or equal. Ito yung absolute value of A, less than or equal to C. Dun sa nangyari. So, absolute A plus B, less than or equal sa absolute value of A plus absolute value of B, which is ito. Okay? So, therefore, that is done. Okay, so proceed tayo sa corollary number 9. So let A and B element ng real number. Then number 1, the absolute value of A minus the absolute value of A minus absolute value of B is less than or equal sa absolute value ng A minus B. Number 2, the absolute value of A minus B is less than or equal sa absolute value of A plus absolute value of B. So i-prove natin yung dalawang yan. So ito yung proof. So ito yung proof ng 9.1. Okay, so mag-start tayo sa 9.1. So, sabi na 9.1, dito tayo mag-start. Meron ako A. Okay, so yung A, element ng real number. So, ang gagawin ko, equal pa siya sa A minus B plus B. Yes, sir. Negative B plus B is also 0. So, 0, so A minus 0, A plus 0 is 0. So, walang mangyayari. Okay, so equal siya dyan. So, ang gagawin ko, kukunin ko yung absolute value nito equal sa absolute value ng, ito-take ko yung grouping symbol na to, or i-group ko to, plus absolute, then plus B, then naka-absolute value. Meaning, tinake ko yung absolute value both sides. Okay, next. By triangle inequality, ano sabi ng triangle inequality? So, sabi, paghihiwalayin ko, pag may plus, paghihiwalayin ko lang. So, mas lalaki. Okay, so, in this side, the absolute value of A is less than or equal sa absolute value ng A minus B plus absolute value of B. Okay, then transpose ko lang yung absolute value of B. That is absolute value of A minus absolute value of B is less than or equal sa absolute value ng A minus B. Okay, so ganyan yung nangyari. So, ito yung equation number 1. So, mamaya i-observe kasi natin siya. Okay, so next is observe naman natin si letter B. Si B ay equal kay B minus A plus A. Tama naman. So, wala akong ibang ginawa. Katulad din dito kay A. So, observe na pag ginawa yung absolute value, that is absolute value of B is equal sa absolute value ng B minus A plus A. So, similar lang ako ng ginagawa. Then, that is absolute value of B is equal sa, so less than or equal sa absolute value ng B minus A plus absolute value of A. Okay, then transpose din natin si absolute value of A, that is absolute value of B minus absolute value of A less than or equal sa absolute value ng B minus A. Okay, so mag-factor out ako ng negative 1 dito, saka negative 1 dito sa side na to. So, factor out ko yung negative 1 dito, that is magiging positive sa absolute value of A. Okay, minus absolute value of B. Less than or equal sa, magka-factor dito ako ng negative 1 dito, that is negative 1 multiplied by, magiging A minus B. Sa loob nun. Okay, then next, ito ay equal sa negative absolute value of A minus absolute value of B less than or equal sa, yung absolute value negative 1, hihiwalay yan. So actually, lalabas yan, then yung absolute value negative 1 is 1, so mawawala lang. So literal, ito ay equal lang sa absolute value ng A minus B. Okay, kasi nga ito, ang mangyari dito, this is absolute value of negative 1 multiplied by absolute value ng A minus B. Itong part na to magiging 1 na lang. Kasi absolute value ng negative 1 is 1. Okay, so then, tanggalin ko yung negative dito, that is absolute value ng A minus B. Okay, so sorry, absolute value of A minus absolute value of B is pag multiply ko ng negative, magbabago ng equality, that is greater than or equal sa negative absolute value of A minus B. So this is equation number 2. Okay, so may equation 1 tas equation 2 tayo. So, pansinin nyo, may common sa equation 1 sa equation 2. Ang common sa kanila, si absolute value of A minus absolute value of B. So, parehas sila. So, ang gagawin ko, dadaan ko siya dun sa gitna. Okay, so sorry, nasulat ko na. So, absolute value of A minus B, nilagay ko dun kasi common naman sa parehas yan. Okay, ngayon, ano unang napansin ko? Si absolute value of A minus absolute value of B is greater than equal sa negative absolute value ng A minus B. So, ito yun. Okay? Then, less than siya dun sa absolute value ng A minus B. Okay, so kung napansin nyo, kagaya sa may triangle inequality kanina. So, by theorem 8.3, so, ang mangyari, kukunin ko lang yung absolute value ng gitna. So, kukunin ko yung absolute value of A minus absolute value of B. Okay, and that is less than dun sa dalawang dulo na magkapareho, which is equal sa absolute value ng A minus B, which is ito. Okay, so therefore, this is done. Okay, so try naman natin si 9.2. So, paano naman si 9.2? So, let A and B element ng real number. So, by triangle inequality. So, ano sabi ng triangle inequality? Yung absolute value ng A plus B is less than or equal sa absolute value ng A plus absolute value of B. Okay, so napakasimple lang nito. Set natin na si B is equal kay negative B. Okay, so therefore that is A minus B less than or equal sa absolute value of A plus absolute value ng negative B. But absolute value ng negative B is positive B. So therefore, the absolute value of A minus B is less than or equal sa absolute value of A plus absolute value of B. Magiging positive lang. So therefore, this is done. Okay, so that's all for algebraic properties. At the same time, ordered property. So dinamay ko na rin sa absolute value. So, next week, yung mathematical induction, saka continuity and limits. So, dun yung magkakaroon talaga tayo ng activity. So, make sure na nakasunod kayo sa mga topic natin for this week. So, thank you.